Right. Okay. Oh, where's that not working? Okay, it's coming up. Right. Okay. Very exciting. Yeah, there we go. So, we have been looking forward to this chat this evening, Claire and I. And so while Claire gets set up on her page so that her followers can watch live on her page, I'm just going to say a few hellos and do a quick introduction of myself, and then hand over once I get the thumbs up from Niki and Claire that we're ready to go. So yeah, I'm Sarah from Barkshire Dog Training, and I'm based in Reading in Berkshire, and I deal with puppies from 8 weeks old up to older dogs, various training needs and life skills that they need. But I love also working on elements of predation behavior, so the chase, the scent work, and the rewarding that through game and play. And yeah, that's one of the things that the three of us definitely have in common. So yeah, we're delighted to have Niki here today. So Niki, do you want to introduce yourself, and then Claire, once you're ready, we can go to her to do her intros?
Indeed, I am double. I'm. Oh, it's trying to create. I'm trying to share it onto my page. I don't think I can do that and talk. I might get lost on that one. Multitasking.
Yeah, it's 7 o'clock in the evening, isn't it? I mean, you know.
I'm a dog trainer, not a tech whiz. I'm normally okay, but I don't know. Yeah, so I'm Niki French. I'm the founder of Pup Talk Dog Training and also Twickenham Dog Services. So I live in Twickenham, very cunningly titled, and I specialize in dogs that are nervous, anxious, reactive, very overexcitable. So I wrote a book called Stop Walking Your Dog, and also I'm the founder of Don't Walk Your Dog Day. So there's a bit of a to put out there. And also to say I'm dog mum to Bodhi, a very overexcitable rescue collie lurcher cross from Battersea.
Oh,
yeah, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you.
Over to you, Claire.
Hello, I'm Claire. Very excited to be joining Niki and Sarah this evening. I run Insight Hounds. Insight Hounds, we work with sight hounds and we specialise in X-racing greyhounds, and I'm based in the Midlands, about 10 minutes from the NEC, and I also work online with sight hounds. So that's me.
Cool. So we love to do collaborations, Claire and I, because we think variety is the spice of life. So a while back, Claire and I got to know Sarah Jones and Niki by visiting and chatting on various groups in the pet dog industry, I should say. And so through those relationships, we sort of persuaded Niki, and she didn't need much persuasion, so I'm pleased to say, but to come along and really, talk about something that I know I often talk to clients about, that emotional response in walks. I know personally I've had emotional dogs, and the concept when I first had my emotional dog of not walking them was just not in the game plan. It was nothing, I worked with brilliant behaviorists, but it was all about working them through the problem rather than building that confidence up beforehand. And I think Niki's book and the journey that she's been on is absolutely fascinating. So that's why we asked and begged and pleaded for her to come and join Claire and I to talk a little bit about the journey that she's been on. And so any questions that you have, please just pop them in the chat, and we'll get to those towards the end of the live. But yeah, so Niki, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I think I'll just stick to the bit from when I started working with dogs, really, which was only 6 years ago, probably 7 years ago now. And I had a bike accident a few years before I quit my old corporate life, and it gave me a little bit of a life reappraisal. I had some short-term memory problems, and ended up sort of wanting to have a complete change of life. That by pure chance, I ended up having a conversation with a friend who said, "Oh, I'm getting a dog, and I'm thinking about becoming a dog trainer." And that was literally my light bulb moment. I'd been searching for 2 to 3 years of thinking what else I was going to do with the rest of my life. So there was no massive strategy behind it, other than I've been animal mad my whole life. Through most of my corporate life, I had 4 cats at one point. I did become a rather mad cat lady because I couldn't have dogs. I had 2 Siamese because they were the most dog-like cats I could get. So yeah, complete change of life, and retrained, started walking dogs to get lots of experience with lots of different dogs. And I specifically sought out clients that their dogs couldn't go on pack walks or couldn't go into doggy daycare. They were nervous, they were reactive. So I was employed by various lovely clients local to me to walk their dogs. And for some of them fairly quickly, I'd said to them, "These walks are not great. Actually, would you mind if I come around and not walk your dog?" So it started really on, actually, within 6 months of sort of coming into this industry as a complete newbie. But it kind of it blossomed from there. And I mean, as much as I work with client puppies locally, I work with all sorts of dogs. My passion was very early on the dogs that were just struggling in the outside world. So that really took me down the path early on. Just as I, sort of grew and got more experience over the years, that's just become a real passion of mine. And then part of my reason for quitting my old life and getting a more dog compatible life was being able to get my own dog. So within a couple of months of starting my own business, I found our rescue dog. So we have Bodhi, who's actually spark out behind me on the floor.
Don't tempt fate.
And so we picked up Bodhi as a 8-month-old collie lurcher cross from Battersea in London, Battersea Cats and Dogs Home. And he'd been in and out of Battersea twice but at the age of 8 months, for nothing more than just exuberance, teenage behaviors, lots of jumping, lots of mouthing, lots of not being able to cope with the outside world in anything that looked anything other than just crazy. Like, he would be the flying the kite kind of dog on a lead, or if people walked in front of him that he couldn't get to, he'd be howling like a husky, just a pure excitement and just not knowing how to process his emotions. So he was a big part of my learning journey. So he very much took me down a certain route, and I was so ill-equipped for him at that stage. So we've got to where we are despite my early training techniques, I think, rather than because of. So I could ramble on into all sorts of directions, but that's probably
but it's interesting, isn't it, how dogs do take that lead for us, because I've very similar in that sense. And I think understanding more how difficult it is with those type of dogs as well just helps you really understand so much more with the clients that we work with. And then if we can't help, these collaborations are just brilliant, because we are then able to work with others and you pass and share resources in order to really build the right resources back for the client. And it's that strength that I think really empowers the three of us in a very challenging industry at times, for sure.
I think if you speak to most trainers, there'll be a story. There's normally a dog behind the story, isn't there? I think that's one common thing with a lot of dog trainers. There's normally a dog at the start of or several at the start of the story.
Exactly.
But normally one that made a real big impact and made a difference. So, so on to stop walking your dog. Something I'm kind of, there's still such a stigma out there around it, and I'm sure you'll agree, ladies, the number of conversations you have with clients and customers and kind of, you go, well, just don't walk your dog that day, or don't walk your dog for a few days and look at doing this instead. There's almost like an exhale goes on with people. They're almost like, really? I'm allowed to do that? I felt like I was letting them down. And I fully understand that. When I first adopted my dogs, I was told like 2 20-minute walks a day. And I genuinely thought if I hadn't marched them around a 20-minute block, I was like letting them down and I was being an awful dog mom. And it's amazing how much more you can do with different types of walks or not walking them at all. But there still seems to be out there. It's almost ingrained in people that we have to do these 2 walks a day. And if we don't,
Yeah.
we're a really bad pet parent, pet guardian. Um, Obviously, Niki, your awareness day is making a huge impact on that and your book. So was there any particular dogs was it Bodhi that really was the starting point behind that, or were you seeing it from lots of other dogs, or what
Yeah,
made you go, we need a whole day for this?
he was part of the story, but I think that the book really came about. I very sensibly started up the business 9 months before we went into lockdown, which was really good timing for a fledgling business. But hey, I didn't predict it.
No.
So I just sort of transitioned from doing dog walking with a bit of training, and I'd let the training go. I'd let the walking go just to concentrate completely on the training. And then we went into lockdown. So all face-to-face work stopped. So like most of us, scramble, what can I do online? Let's do training online. But it was actually instrumental in this shape of things, which I think worked so well. So I was working with people online, and there was 2 clients early on that had sort of high drive dogs, working breed dogs, and they were really struggling on walks. And it was during the Zoom training that it was the second time I said the words, you need to stop walking your dog. Like every walk was, excuse me, was complete meltdown for the dog. One dog was so noise sensitive. Yeah, she's a little case study in the first book. And, you know, if she heard any random noise, lorry in the distance, a bird scare her, anything like that, she would just pancake to the floor. She'd pull frantically. She'd pulled her owner over, and she wasn't a big collie, but, you know, she was so noise fearful. They just couldn't avoid everything. It's not, you know, okay, there's no easy kind of reactivity, but if it's dog reactive, well, yes, you go at 4 a.m, don't you, and you go to a quiet place, like, but there's just random noises, you just can't avoid it. So every walk she was having an absolute nightmare. So I just said, you need to stop walking your dog. And I said it for the second time, and I kind of went, oh, hang on a minute, I knew I wanted to write a book about dog training, I just didn't know what. And then that was it. So I started writing really quickly, and sort of in 9 months it was sort of written and designed and edited and published. So it just kind of, the book kind of fell out of me with what I was doing with my clients. So it was sort of an accidental specialism, if you like. But then I wrote the book because I wanted to write a book. I didn't really think beyond maybe 100 people that I knew and my mum buying 5 copies. I didn't think there would be that many copies sold, but like really quickly, the sales just way exceeded any of my expectations. And I was getting emails back from people, and it comes back to what you said a few minutes ago about that exhale, that, oh God, this is me. Like people would say, oh my God, you know, the first chapter, you wrote it for me. This is me. Thank you for giving me permission not to walk my dog when it doesn't feel right. And you know, there's I'll take a slight tangent into the Don't Walk Your Dog Day. In the first year it happened, it went viral, and there was an article on the Mirror Online. So it did a really good job of talking about what Don't Walk Your Dog Day is about, which is not saying no one should walk their dog ever, which the book is also not saying you should not walk your dog
just have a dog, but never walk.
There are lots of other things that you can do, and don't just think, oh, well, I've walked my dog 2 to 3 times a day, that's it, that's all needs met, don't need to do anything else. But the article obviously had a very clickbaity headline, so there was lots of keyboard warriors. I think there was 80 or 90 comments comments went below this article fairly quickly of going, who does this snowflake think she is? And I'm like, I'm 50. Yes. But they hadn't read the article at all. They just read the strap line about dog trainer says don't walk your dog, but it got conversations happening, and that's when I realized the kind of the magic was happening, because it's not like I've come up with this concept for one moment. Loads of people talk about this, but I think just packaging it in a way, writing about it in a way that grabs attention and gets conversations going. And so many of the people that I talk to go, I knew in my gut, my heart was telling me this isn't the right thing for my dog, but I still felt I had to. Partner pressure, family pressure from friends of walk them more, get them used to it, just take them to the things they're worried about and counter to condition it and da. And it just doesn't work for so many dogs. So that was the whole sort of rambling thing about like the whole message behind it. But
and I guess for anybody watching this now or catching up on replay, what is it that then not walking the dogs helps them with, to help people understand that concept of stopping for people here?
Well, I think a big thing, I talk about the bucket analogy, or if we're talking about ACE free work, we talk about the number of candles lit. It's if your dog is constantly being exposed to things that they really don't have the skills to cope with, their nervous system is constantly, the bucket is full up to here, their nervous system is constantly jangling. All those stress hormones are always, just flooding around their body, and they just don't get a chance to go and cope with stuff. So the reactions just become inevitable because they've had a stressful walk in the morning, and then they go out in the evening, or they've had a stressful day, and then the following 2 days is also hard for them. So it gives their nervous system a chance to relax and reset, and it gives the human a chance to just go, whoa. And and for some dogs, just taking a walk off here and there, or doing a duvet day at the weekend or something like that, sometimes just replacing one of those walks can be a real changer. But that was Bodhi. We used to walk him twice a day, and it was a nightmare. And I was training to be a dog trainer. I had so many tears of thinking, well, if I can't help him, how can I help other people? So I used to dread my boyfriend and I would generally walk him together. If it was 2 days of the week when Ash had an early Pilates class to teach, I had to walk him on my own, and I'd be thinking, oh no, get to my morning, I'd be dreading it. And partly that's the reason I stopped the second walk of the day, because I was dreading it so much. But as soon as I did, and we just had little bouts of training games throughout the day, maybe 5-10 minutes absolute max, 2 or 3 times a day absolute max, it was like night and day with Bodhi. Like, he went from being a real, like, he struggled so much in the evening, like witching hour was witching 3 hours. He couldn't settle. He'd be mouthing us and whining and barking, like he was just wired. So it was a game changer for him. So it's not just about skipping a walk and sticking on Netflix or something like that. It is about doing other things that are appropriate for your dog and what they enjoy. But there's so many things that you can do.
There are, and the variety is huge. And Sarah and I have had enrichment as our topic throughout the year that we've kept revisiting on every live, and really this just feeds in so well. So I know you're trained in ACE free work, but kind of free work, enrichment, training games, anything along those lines done right for that particular individual dog's needs can make such a difference, can't it, to that decompression, that, as you say, emptying that bucket, bringing those stress hormones down. And there's so many varieties out there of what you can do, isn't there? I loved in the book when you're talking about like passive enrichment and passive
Calming.
massive
Yeah,
book is
yeah.
calming and bucket emptying, and there's like really active enrichment you can do. There's really calming, and whatever that dog needs, you can tap into it without having to leave the house. And potentially buy loads of kit. You can spend a fortune on lots of dog games and kit, but there's so much you can do with like empty toilet roll holes.
Oh, a dog towel, an upturned plant pot. I'm there.
Yeah.
Like we're there. We don't need to buy anything. Although I have obviously bought loads of stuff.
Yeah.
Of course we have. Yeah, we all have.
To.
We all went to it. Like, yeah, we'll have some of that.
Free cycling outside your house, like, is just the best thing. I don't know. I will walk around my streets with the dog, and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna have to drop the dog off to come back and get that my latest thing. It's like a little baby play cot. Like some play cot that's made a wonderful little snuffle trough for dogs. Ash is like, what have you got home now?
Jumping into skips to see what else might be in there that's suitable.
Yeah, I haven't done skip diving yet. No, I don't get out.
Have you got a favourite kind of, obviously you're training ace free work, have you got anything that's like one of your favourites that you would never kind of miss off a free work section or enrichment section? Is there anything that you really like to go to, Niki? Is there, because for me anything that's kind of got that scent element in is kind of quite important, because I'm training the scent as well. That's important to me, but so many of them have the scent element as well, don't they?
And ace is it's so much more than enrichment. I mean, it looks like enrichment fun time, and it is massively, but it does so much more than that. So I think it's normally about, for me, snuffle mats are nearly always part of it. But actually, I do also now see a lot of dogs at the moment that can't cope with a snuffle mat or even a dog towel. They want to hold, grip, shred. So it's not always. I think it is very dog dependent. I think my favourite piece of dog training equipment is, I don't even know where I got it from. I used to work for a company. How old am I now? I don't know, 35 years ago. And we used to do mailing fulfillment. And we had these little Royal Mail really hard plastic boxes this big. I obviously ended up with one at home somewhere, I don't know where from. Sorry, Royal Mail. It comes with all the yellow space zones. It comes to me with my clients' race free work. Bodie will put paws up on it, he'll stick his head in it. For the dogs that like to crunch plastic, they can't get the teeth into it. It's just the best piece of free equipment I've ever got. And on that, licking for most dogs, if they're not, sometimes they can be so aroused they really struggle to lick, but if we can get them licking, I saw it with Bodie very early on, like his eyes went from like completely high.
Cartoon one.
It would just soften, and his eyes would close when he was licking. But I very, very early on realized so many of the lick mats are really textured, and dogs will often use their teeth and like grind their teeth through the lick mats, which is not, they're like that's not what we're trying to get. If we can get a dog licking, that's huge. Now obviously it's got to be something that's appropriate for them, but my anything that I've got that I can use in ace free work, I tend not to put a lick mat on it. I will just slap the yogurt, the primula, the peanut, the peanut butter, the dog patty or whatever. I'll put it straight onto the object if we can, so that the dog can just lick it without them A, getting frustrated, or B, wanting to pick it off and run around with it and toss it. So I think probably if it was one thing, I might go licking. But sniffing, and some dogs are not that foodie. Some dogs I deal with have got real food issues, and food has become quite punishing for them. So at the moment I'm collecting feathers on a walk. So every time I go on a walk, if I see a feather of any decent size, it goes in my dog walking pouch. I must have about 50 feathers that I'm been collecting up, because they'll smell different to different dogs. Seashells, pebbles, at some of the yellow space zones, I've been collecting up the sort of bits of branches and sheep poo and things like that. Very dried sheep poo, nothing that the dogs are eating, but they're all just things that encourage that sniffing. And if we can get our dogs sniffing, I mean that's just a massive de-stressor for them. So
Well, if I can pick up a couple of things there, Niki, that you shared. I remember, I can't remember what event or occasion it was when we were together, but you talked about actually just turning the lick mat upside down, because you don't then get the crunchy side of it, but just flipping it over just is a whole different experience. So we, you know, and I was like, oh, actually, I had never even thought of just turning it upside down just to try and promote that, you know, stimulus of licking in that regard. And you know, now I know you need to collect feathers. Where I live on the river, obviously we're surrounded by swans and geese and ducks, so yeah, just careful what you wish for, because you might now suddenly have through the parcel some spare feathers, because there's always loads around here and plenty of goose poo, but I think we'll leave that one behind.
Yeah, Bodhi would want to eat that, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really when I heard you talk about the bucket and things, one of the things that I, you know, when I'm trying to explain it with clients is that, you know, if you think about dogs when they first evolved, you know, like with humans, you know, we aren't ready for the world as it is today. Yeah, because, well, you know, how we got scared, you know, when we had a shock, etc., and experience, you know, we had time to process it because the world was so much slower. But even our day to day as humans, you know, we get more stress and shocks ourselves. You know, the alarm goes off and something then happens, or we see something bad in the news, because we've got access 24/7. And if you think about our dogs and the world that they've, you know, originated from, and how quiet and peaceful life might have been, and then today, you know, a lot of dogs, especially rescues coming from other countries, you know, their sights and sounds of the UK compared to some of our Europeans, you think, well, how can that be, you know, different? But it genuinely is. And so they just don't know how to, you know, understand and process that information. And so, you know, it makes perfect sense, because if we reflect on ourselves and think how we sometimes build up that layer of stress and can't process it, and, you know, a week might go by and we're still feeling that energy, but we very rarely then put it onto our dogs to think, well, what are they feeling the same, and not marrying the two together. But I definitely see that more and more now, you know, as we, you know, and I think trying to explain that to clients definitely hopefully helps them to see that, you know, the dogs are not being stubborn or difficult, or, you know, they haven't had, you know, too many numbers you know, in that sense. So it's just, you know, life is really complicated for all of us these days.
Yeah, and I think a really lovely way of using ACE-free work for those you know, not just overseas rescues but rehomed dogs is so many of us live in environments that, you know, I'm only 20 minutes from Heathrow, so we've got all the planes, we've obviously, you know, Twickenham's quite an urban area. To give dogs a break by not walking them every day, if you set up 2 or 3 little ACE-free workstations and keep them the same to start off with, so that there is a, you know, to start off with, it might be something a little bit unusual, the dog might be a little bit uncertain of it, but then if the same 2 or 3 stations come out in the same location, then that dog is able to make choices, to approach, to not approach, do so in their own time and grow confidence with those things. Then there's that level of familiarity that can really help to bolster their confidence, that then you can start adding in a little bit of something novelty that's over there that, again, they can choose to ignore. They have their ACE stations that they can explore and have an enjoyable time with, but then you can introduce something a little bit novel. So rather than just sort of overwhelming them with lots of new experiences in an environment that, as you say, they're not used to, yeah, I mean, that can make a huge difference to helping dogs settle in. Even dogs that have been over here for a long time, you know, we've started introducing that as a way to help them get over their, you know, their reactivity outside, because they just can't cope. They just can't cope.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I think sometimes we get, oh, they're perfect at home, you know, everything's wonderful. But as soon as we leave the threshold of the door, and life just changes. But you know, and it's trying to help them understand that, well, what, you know, what happens and why is that, etc. And trying to put your, you know, your feet in their paws, I guess, you know, to from their experiences and everything. So, you know, and then how did you and Sarah Jones get connected then? Because obviously I know that you've been supporting her with the yellow zones across various dog show festivals and shows and things. So how did that relationship come about?
Yeah, do you know, I have such a bad memory. I think it's a throw. I like to think it's a throwback to the bicycle accident. Could also be menopause. I mean, let's be honest. We first met, I want to say 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. We obviously met online, and it must have been Rachel Spencer. It must have been through Rachel Spencer. Sarah will probably correct me and put a post below and go, "There, it was like this, you fool." But we first met at, I want to say it was probably All About Dogs in Newbury. I think that's where I first met her in person. And she was doing the My Anxious Dog stand. The Yellow Space Zone didn't exist at that point, but I came along with my boyfriend Ash. We took Bodhi with us because that was still at the point at which I was thinking, yeah, we'll try some new experiences. That's the first and only time I've taken him to something like that. He did okay. Did he enjoy it? No. So we leave him at home for those sorts of things. So that's where I met Sarah and Matt. And we just hit it off. You know, we're just sort of two sides of the same coin, really. And her message, you know, and everything that she's doing to help the anxious dogs of the world is just totally overlapping with me and my passion. So working with her on the Yellow Space Zones has just been magical, because it's a way of bringing hope to people, that there are some people that are there and they haven't brought their dogs there because they know their dogs would struggle in that environment, and they're there to get information. Maybe they're there to pick up a harness from Sarah or something like that. There are some people there that aren't perhaps as aware of their dog's struggles as they might be, but they are open to conversations. And then when we start talking, and you know, we when the Yellow Space Zones were started, the ability for them to see their dog in a space where they do get to just relax a little bit is very special. I know you've seen it as well. Is, you know, it's quite possible some of these dogs have not been able to eat, not been able to drink, not been able to wee or poo, and then they get a little bit of time in a Yellow Space Zone, which is basically built on the foundations of ACE-free work as much as we can in a field. And within 10 to 15 minutes, most of those things will happen, like the basic bodily functions that they can't do because they are holding tension and they are stressed, even if they're not looking that stressed as far as their caregivers are concerned. It's just magical. So yeah, I mean, working with Sarah has just been just an absolute joy. So yeah,
it's brilliant, isn't she?
Yeah.
You saying about that, I ran my first one on Sunday last week, and it was fantastic. And I also had another trainer on the stand, and he's brilliant. And we both just go, this is fascinating. So you kind of have seen it before and you know it, but every time we're watching the dogs, and like you say, we just had some that went in there, and we had some that just went to the toilet, and clearly they've been holding on, and then we had some that came in, and you wouldn't have described them as in a really anxious or stressed state, but they came in and there was a definite difference in that body language from when they first arrived to when they were leaving. And there was almost, as we said earlier, I'm kind of repeating the point from earlier, but as we get to humans, they exhale because they don't need to walk the dogs. You can see in the Yellow Space Zones, the dogs were almost going, oh, okay, and there was almost like a pause, a reset. It was just absolutely incredible to watch. I'm so grateful for Sarah for sort of everything and that you guys have done, and then to let us play a part in that as well. It's just, but watching the dogs is just fascinating. As you say, you've got caregivers that are very aware of it and some that haven't, and some dogs literally just came in and they were fine. They just had a play and they were like, oh, I really like coming here, and they got a really positive experience from being at an event. So we just added like an extra element of positivity to quite a big event for some of the dogs. So there was so many like levels to it. It was absolutely fascinating. It really is amazing what you can do. And like you say, if you're working on some of these skills at home and building these confidence, I think so many people, and again, I'm sure as dog trainers, we all have these conversations. So many people are like, I need to fix the problem in the middle of the situation. And it's like, no, You know, if my dog's reacting, I need to be able to fix them when they're reacting, or I need to fix them when the scary noise is happening, or when they're pulling on the lead, that's when I need to fix it. And there's so many things around working for the situation, which again the book repeats and mentions so frequently, but in such a positive way and such a positive message. And strategies to do that. It's all just so linked beautifully.
Yeah.
I think
like inherently the dogs, it sounds like a daft thing to say, but the dogs inherently know how to be a dog, but we often don't give them a chance to be a dog, or like they can only, you know, Sarah Fisher will say, you know, dogs can only make choices from the choices that we make available to them. So the heights of things, the floors we make them work on, we make them walk on, the spaces that we put them in, the experiences that we expose them to. Like dogs have so little choice, but if you can, with intention, create experiences for them that are tapped into allowing them to be more dog, they all do know how to be it. They might be a little bit cut off from it, and some of them can really struggle, and you know, you need to unlock it. Like it's all about layers, just unpeeling the layers of an onion. Sarah will talk about, but they do all inherently know how to do it if we can make those choices available to them in some way.
Yeah, and they don't get up at 7 o'clock in the morning after a cup of coffee and go, right, let's go around the block. If they were living on their own, I mean, that's very much a human decision around that process, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
In that sense. And well, we've got a couple of comments in the chat, and one just saying really appreciate the time that we're taking to bring this live to the wonderful audience here that's watching currently and on replay. But Jenny's also was saying that she might have had a greedy one coming along to one of the yellow spaces recently.
If anyone saw my photos with the dog with a head in the code.
At the end of each day when we're doing the yellow space zones, we always look for, I'm going to stereotype terribly, but we normally do look for one of the stall holders that has a Labrador. Not every Labrador is foodie, but more are Labrador than not. We will look for the Labrador to do the clean sweep and to do the pre-wash of all the lick mats and all the snuffle mats, so that we can put them away slightly cleaner.
She was having a lot of fun in there. So, and Steph's commented as well. I've just seen it come up that Shadow can need some extra support at times. He can sometimes find the world a little bit overwhelming, but he was loving it in there. He really was. It was kind of really good for him. He did ever so well.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to doing my first one in September with my local vets that I partner with, because I had one planned in May, but unfortunately the weather was typical early summer, was the one day that was pouring with rain, so they cancelled it. But yeah, no, we're all ready with, and what's been great since the Edition dog show, we've partnered with the people that have provided with Sarah some of the elements of the for the yellow zone. So we've got in touch with them, and we bought and got some of the equipment as well. So there's going to be a lot of synergies from that perspective. And both Claire and I have got our yellow fencing already, etc.
Yep,
so
we're all yellowed up.
We're all sorted. And I was talking to the vets when I was with Poppy earlier this week, yesterday, wasn't it? And they're super excited by doing something like that bringing that awareness. So can't wait to share your what you and Sarah do, and to broaden that awareness and knowledge, because it's definitely getting more popular with the hard work that both of you are doing. So proud to be an ambassador of the yellow, My Anxious Dogs, and Claire and I, aren't we?
Millie's just sorry, we are, Sarah, definitely. I've just noticed comments come up. So Millie, Nikki's got a question. Start again. Millie's got a question that I think is directed towards yourself. Saying thank you for everything today. And do you have any advice for a reactive dog that sometimes needs to skip walks, but is very routine based, so struggles when a walk is skipped? And that's so common with Millie and the dog. The ex-racing greyhounds have been so routine based that sometimes if we take a routine away from them completely, they can find that really stressful. But equally, if they're not getting their routine, they can find that stressful. It's a really kind of fine line.
Yeah, no, I do hear that. And the way that I would ease them into it gently is, rather than skip a walk, think about whatever is the normal walk, if there is a normal walk, the length of it, or at the time of day. Say it's a 20-minute walk with a quick blast, somewhere off lead or something like that. Could you shorten that walk by 5-10 minutes? Could you do a little bit of ACE-free work before you go out? Could you do a little bit of ACE-free work when you come back? So you can kind of adjust part of it. You shorten it up a little bit and you do something else, either before or after. And then you can adjust things slowly. And with the ACE-free work, like a nervous overseas rescue, just have a couple of stations that they become used to, that becomes that regular. I like dogs to become more flexible, but that's not right for all dogs, and sometimes they really do need that. I need to know exactly what I'm doing and when, so you need to kind of shape that, not in a shaping sense,
gradually,
but move that in baby steps. So maybe just shave 5 minutes off the walk, maybe do a little something beforehand or do a little something afterwards, and play about with it a little bit. That would be where I would start.
Because one of the big things for them is, again, put the harness, put the lead on, and that sort of stuff. So you can put the harness lead on, go out into the garden, and even do it with them ready to go.
Yeah.
You're potentially going to put them into a slightly calmer state, then go out and then do a bit more when you come back. But they've still got that kind of routine of, I've got my harness on, so that's what I'm.
Yeah. And also, if there's massive arousal with the harness coming on and you getting your dog walking shoes on, I mean, that's an ideal time to then do something slightly different before you go out, because that's when I find the pulling's worse, the reactivity's worse, because they're already they're ready, they're primed and ready to just go off at any time. So as much as I would normally say ACE-free work, try, if it's safe, do it where the dog can be naked, no lead, no collar, no harness. We just want them to move freely. We want them to have the most maximum benefit that they can get physically and therefore mentally by moving their body without being hampered, and also so that we can video it and we can really see what their body is doing. So there's so many layers to ACE, but if you need to, putting the equipment on and then doing a little bit of ACE, or just a snuffle mat, lick mat, something like that, just something in the enrichment sphere with the equipment on, can kind of change their headspace a little bit. Or even just going out of the front door, can you put one of your little stations from ACE-free work just outside the front door, so that as soon as they're out, they go straight onto the snuffle mat, a few treats. So you can even just take that a little bit further out of the front door, which is often a massive threshold of arousal
or change it
out.
That's great.
Definitely. Fantastic question. Thank you, Millie.
Yes, and we have another question that's come in, Sarah, I think. My dog reacts to wheels on scooters, bikes and pushchairs, and flying birds on walks. Would sniffing activity help to calm the dog prior to the walk?
I would say so, definitely. I mean, it sounds like it's a very movement thing, so maybe a predation question for you, Sarah. But definitely,
I was going to say that'd be interesting to know what breed.
Always going to help. Licking is always going to help as well. If your dog struggles with licking, I mean, Sarah's lovely squeezy rewards on the pulleys. For sometimes the sniffing can be quite difficult for them. They can't find. I teach a scatter and point. Oh, here's a piece of food. Here it's going down. Watch my finger. Oh, here it is. So it's not scatter feed, find the food, because often they're so heightened they can't. But if that sort of scatter and point, they can't find their nose at all, sometimes licking can sort of help them get that arousal levels down.
I mean, interesting on that point. One of the things that I do from a predation perspective, with the dog that really gets very fixated on what they're seeing, actually teaching them how to lick at home, where there's no distractions, against that same principle, teaching them to do the behavior that they in a safe environment, and actually put, even putting it on cue if you need to. But ideally, you just want to let them lick and be familiar with it, and then build up to the the areas where they might find it. So because then it becomes a more natural reflex, doesn't it, to the situation that they're in. But yeah, no, I use licking and the squeezy tubes a lot. Really, really helpful in that sense. So yeah, I'd be curious to see what breed, Mukesh, that you've got there, and got us all curious now. Brilliant. So any last comments, Niki, that you want to share with our brilliant audience here tonight?
Didn't think about that one.
This just proves this
at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it is a chat, and it just proves that it is a real chat, and we're not, we don't plan too much around this at all. We do have a little bit of a, conversation, but yeah, it is very much off the cuff about, I mean, I'm sure we look very professional in all our capacity of these videos, don't we?
Oh, I don't know. I've got bloopers I'm storing up for you somewhere on there. I do like to train. I do like to share my training fails, and people that are in my membership are well aware of. I will share the humdingers with warnings for where there's barking and other things for them to look out for. I think they're the funniest, aren't they? One tip that I would, or maybe a couple of little quick tips, and I've given myself a moment to think about it. Then I think if you are observe your dog, and it's amazing how we think we look at our dogs and not a lot, but then sometimes looking at them in a different way. So by that I mean doing ACE-free work, or even just having some enrichment out. Set your camera to landscape and hit record, but do it at dog height. So doing it at whatever it is about their body height, and hit record. So I don't mean hold it, because the dog will be like, what are you doing? Where's the treats? And so on and things like that. Like just prop it up and hit record as your dog is licking or snuffling and moving around, because it can be incredibly useful to watch them back. Some people have incredible powers of observation, and naturally I'm not one of them. So in the moment I can struggle to see stuff, but if I've got it on, I can play it back. I can go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, and I can go, oh, that's kind of interesting, or that I can see that height's really nice, or look at how they kind of avoided that texture. Like, it gives you so much more information. And that's part of the animal-centered education of ACE. It's education for the dog, but it's also education for us. So by videoing it, you can play it back and play it back. So all the bits that unless your powers of observation are like Sarah Fisher, and there's not many people in the world that have that kind of like that vision, you can kind of cheat by using your phone. And also, if there is anything that you ever need to show a vet, a physio, anything like that, anything to do with your dog, and you just have if you did it here and then you do it in 6 months' time or a year's time, that in itself can give you really good information as to how your dog is, like physically how they are, but yeah, how to tailor things for themselves.
Such a good tip. And just with Izzy lately, Izzy had something going on, and I was like, I know there's something not right with her. She's off, and her coat wasn't right, which is a Sarah Fisher. And I filmed it, and she went to the vets and just shut down at the vets, so it was really hard to see anything. But then I talked to the vets and got a physio involved, and because of the videos we were able to get a physio, and then we're working on it now, and there was issues, but because I had that video. So just to kind of, well, your great tip there, just to kind of, that's exactly what happened with Izzy, and it made such a difference, whereas it would have been, there's nothing obviously wrong with her, but knowing her, I knew there was, and it was by being able to film it, we could make a difference in that. So great tip.
Yeah, well, thank you. And for those, a Cavapouchon is the breed. So brilliant. Well, look, fantastic to catch up with you guys. Thank you to everyone that's joined us and the great questions. We'll keep an eye on the feed too, so if any questions come up, we'll pass them on to Niki if she doesn't spot them. So anything that you want to ask after the live, then please do. And if you have any questions for either of us, just either get in touch with us directly or drop a message, and we'll get in touch. So thank you very much indeed. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.